Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to Future Proof, the podcast where we are exploring the transformation and impact of AI on business growth. For those tuning in for the first time, I'm Brent Muller from Deploy AI. At Deploy, we specialize in providing autonomous growth engines that power B2B and SaaS companies to accelerate and scale growth much faster. So if you're looking to scale your business or remove any hidden frictions of growth, or just curious about how AI might fit into your business, we're always happy to talk. 15-minute call. There'll be links in the show notes. But let's get to today's episode. I'm delighted to have Dave Kustin from Element M and from Content Bacon. So Dave, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome. All right, let's dive right in. So talk to us about, as we call Leader's Journey. Talk to us about your background leading up to get involved with both of these companies.
So, my career started in 1997 in Los Angeles, working in film and television, primarily post-production. Did a little bit of production, commercial production. And so my journey, fresh out of college, right? I'm learning how to be, a professional person.
Right.
So, I think I was pretty good at keeping my mouth shut and my ears open for much of that initial journey. Over the course of, let's say, 7 years in Los Angeles, had a number of roles, ascending, responsibilities and leadership opportunities along the way. And the last thing I did in LA was I started a company with a couple of partners, and we built a company from nothing, right? In the proverbial, not the proverbial living room, the literal living room, doing the work in the living room. And
well, hey, it's a step up, right? Most people are garage, right? At least you had the living room.
Absolutely. So living room to small studio to bigger studio to bigger studio. And I think the journey there was multifold. One, I was, learning how to be a partner to someone, two people, learning how to be a better leader or, business owner, et cetera. And so, did that for a number of years, and eventually that kind of wound down with respect to realizing my role with that company was to build a brand. And I realized that, wow, I really like this brand building stuff more than, let's say the film business. And so I said, well, I don't need to live in Los Angeles if I'm going to do brand stuff. So I came back to South Florida, where I'm from, and I kind of started over, in a sense, professionally speaking, took, like an entry-level account executive type role with an agency. And then I started that ascension yet again. Yeah. Made my way up to, creative director and then managing director. And I left that role and became chief marketing officer for a software startup, angel-funded software startup. Ran out of angels in 2009, when the world imploded or exploded, however you look at it. And I started my own thing. Yeah. That's where Element M was born. And, again, at that point, I was in probably my mid-30s, and I was ready, to kind of shoulder all the leadership, if you will, or create something.
Right.
And so that's what I did. And I grew that business to it became more of a lifestyle business.
Yeah.
It wasn't very scalable, or it wasn't scalable at all.
Right.
And then that's when I started, in 2013, 2014, I started Content Bacon with a partner. And Content Bacon from day one was designed to be scalable. And so, 10, almost 11 years later now, we're still at it, still growing.
That's awesome. So tell us about Content Bacon and kind of your vision for it. And then now things have obviously evolved, and there's impact and change in the industry. What kind of going?
Yeah. So from the very beginning, my partner and I, we both had agencies at the time. So we had this agency awareness and mindset, and we knew how agencies operate, both internally, but as well, with clients, customers, and clients. And so from the outset, first of all, we saw a hole in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And so this is now 2013 when we started to think about this business.
Right.
And on one end of the spectrum, this was, the I don't even think Fiverr existed then. It was probably just Upwork or some other marketplaces for talent.
Yeah.
And then on the very other end of the spectrum, there were very expensive, retainer-heavy content marketing agencies.
Yeah.
And in the middle, there was nothing that we thought was, sort of magnetic, nothing that was scalable. And so that's what we set out to create, was not an agency. Again, from day one, it was not an agency. It was a subscription model service. And we don't have clients, we have customers. Agencies have clients.
Right.
this sort of model has customers. And so we set out from day one to create that kind of model where customers would know exactly what they're getting, exactly what they're paying, and the frequency in which all of those things would happen.
Right.
Again, completely transparent. Whereas I'm gonna indict a lot of folks here on the traditional sort of agency model. The game is very often, well, how much can I get you to pay?
Yeah.
And it's not very transparent. And
especially in content and branding, it's really, really, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this company or this client now over here may pay X, and this client over here pays X plus. Right. Meanwhile, the agency is doing the same thing for both.
Right.
And so, it just didn't seem like a smart way to scale and grow. And so, again, we set out to very deliberately be the anti-agency with respect to content bacon. So that was the vision. The model, the product, if you will, was human dependent. There was no AI at the time.
Right.
And, all our writers and editors are professional writers and or editors. They were and are based here in the US. And again, that's how we went to market. We wanted to make it very professional. And that's what we did, and that's what we continue to do.
Awesome. So obviously the next question is, right, big, massive shifts in the industry since November of 2022. And, how has it impacted your industry in general, right? And then how have you kind of pivoted or taken advantage of with content?
Yeah. So, the impact, I think a lot of people are curious about that, not just in the writing industry, let's say, but in lots. And I think in some industries, you're able to look at some data and clearly measure it. We have not been able to do that. The anecdotal response is it hasn't hurt us at all. COVID didn't hurt us, and AI has not hurt us. Now, going back to your timeline, folks in my circle would say, "Shit, Dave, are you terrified of AI?" Maybe for a brief moment I was, but it's like nothing happened. And so I think the way it has helped us is people now see that AI is great, and we believe AI is great. I use AI all the time. But it's a tool. It's not a replacement.
Absolutely.
And moreover, in the realm of writing, AI is what we call, it creates Tin Man content, and so it has no heart, and it may never have a heart.
Right.
You need a human being for that.
Yeah. There's no gut feel. There's no intuition. There's no right. Absolutely. That's why we call them digital coworkers here, right? They're phenomenal if they're put next to a really good, productive human.
It's a great tool.
Yeah.
It is a phenomenal tool. And again, I use it through that lens. I use it that way all the time. But when it comes to writing, I consider myself a writer. I write plenty of content, and I'll use AI to help me sort of sort out ideas and maybe structure some stuff. And I'll often read something and like, no one speaks that way.
Right. Right.
It maybe robotic is kind of the word, or it's a robot pretending to be a human. And, it comes out very clearly. Again, that could change tomorrow.
Right. It'll get smarter for sure.
It will. Yeah. It will get smarter, and it will have. I'm assuming it will eventually have more heart. But today it doesn't.
But I think, Dave, the only thing, just to jump in there, I think the way it'll get heart is by a human teaching it. Right. Prompt engineering to me right now is everything, and it's the more you can teach it, the better. And I always think exactly what you're talking about. If it could write and get you to 85%, do you know how much time that saves you? Right. And then the overlay of what the human brings to it, it's a deadly combination, but it is for all the people that don't. I have tons of listeners that always, it's going to replace my job. No, that's not what this is about. Digital coworkers or co-pilots is what we need to call them.
Agree 100%. And now, so fast forward, our team uses it that way. We have not replaced any writers. There's plenty of content businesses out there, services out there where they only use AI writing. We do not do that. We use it to help us. We use it to, maybe create some ideation, and it's sort of a thinking partner. But we still use human beings to edit.
Well, let me give you a shameless plug, right? To help out for everybody listening. One of the things that people don't factor in is because, listen, if you're a big platform, any of the social platforms, right? Their algorithms are going to get smarter and smarter, and they're going to, I don't want to say ban, but they're going to pick up AI only created content because that the bad actors, right, overseas are going to hammer this, and they're going to use it, and there's going to be combating. So the great thing about what content bacon does is you have humans in the loop and you're going to get authentic content. And when you put authentic content out, it's not going to get shut down. And that is a very powerful thing if you're building your brand.
I just sat through a talk with an AI expert, and he's been in AI for longer than the rest of us, let's say. And he's got, so his knowledge base for this is pretty deep. And he said exactly that, which is, so first of all, he said all the AI models can detect their own content.
Yes.
So Gemini can detect Gemini produced content. Furthermore, what he said about that was he believes all the AIs will get together and agree to sort of monitor each other's content in that same way.
I actually think that would be a phenomenal thing if that happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Sort of like a coalition.
Yeah.
A standard.
A standards board. It's a standards board.
Yeah.
We need a standards board. Right. We have one. My other company's a data company. We have a standards, right? The IB, the standards boards. Yeah, absolutely.
But so how or why that matters to the business owner or the marketing director out there, and that is all this AI generated content you're producing for your brand is now worthless.
Yeah.
And maybe it's been worthless. And I don't mean it from it doesn't have the human touch aspect. I mean it from the search aspect. It will now, just like back in the day when websites would keyword stuff and do all that kind of shady shit and punish you. Yeah. Same thing is going to happen now. So that excites the hell out of me because I have a company that's in the business of writing. And we use humans to do it.
Yeah.
We're now more valuable.
Yeah, totally agreed. Do you see, so one of the things that AI, I believe, and we're starting to see, everything's kind of a snowball effect. And one of the things that we're starting to see across industries, right? Because on our podcast, we have tons of industries, even though we only specialize in the B2B and SaaS, that we kind of have almost every industry you can imagine on here, right? The common theme that we hear is that consolidation is starting to happen. And where they see it first is from their vendors, right? And then obviously it walks up the chain and private equity starting to do this across, right? And everybody knows, most people know about how the model works and it's really changing. I feel like that will happen in the content industry. And I think that, I guess my question is, do you foresee that happening, the consolidation in that industry due to this?
From the aspect of, companies like mine that produce content?
Well, just in general, because it's not just right? Like the branding and the content industry in general is massive. Right. And they come in all shapes and sizes. But when you have technology disrupting like this, I can start to see synergies happening, partnerships, right? And that's where consolidations happen. But also there's companies that don't do it the way you do it, right? And they're going to be obsolete. And so, do you think that that's going to happen in that industry?
Probably. I mean, I think to some degree or with some truth, it happens in every industry at some time.
Yeah.
Candidly, I haven't seen it yet. I mean, there are folks I know, and this is not on a big scale, but there's a group down here in South Florida where we are, where I am, and they're rolling up some agencies, but not with a particular kind of only content agencies, let's say.
Right.
And that, again, that's not a new model.
No, agencies, it's been there.
Correct. Yeah. Right. So, I don't know. I mean, I think what will probably materially change in let's say my industry, digital marketing, just to put it broadly, I think SEO companies are probably in trouble.
Big trouble.
Yeah, because I think what they do, at least on the sort of the mechanical side of things, AI is going to replace that.
100%.
AI is going to, right? Yeah. So maybe there's going to be some consolidation there because the ones that kind of get it or do it well or differently or with most profit, if you will, they'll probably get spun up.
And there's definitely different places where that's going to happen. So now, as you start to look out down the next 12 to 18 months, what we're talking about before the podcast is, where do you see the big opportunities? Where do you see, like, just take content bacon alone, right? Where do you see the big opportunities for you guys to grow?
Yeah.
With all the changing landscape that's coming.
Yeah. So we made a little bit of a I wouldn't call it a pivot, over the last, let's say, 9 months or so, but maybe a little bit of a messaging pivot, which is, we're now focused on helping organizations with their CRM and not from the technical side. We're not here to help you choose one or to set it up or anything of that nature.
Right.
You already have a CRM, you have, 5,000 plus contacts in it, but your sales organization does a poor job of using it, of using those contacts, of when I say use them, that's not really the right word. It's more like staying in touch with them.
Right.
So
right. Top of mind.
our focus is using content to help organizations that have a pretty large database, but they don't do anything with it, or
Right.
they do a poor job of it. So a lot of companies, they're so focused on net new leads that they do nothing with the leads they've already cultivated or paid for.
100%.
And so that's our focus now over the next 12 months and let's say beyond. And we just started to scratch the surface on that. We're getting an unbelievable reception to it. Every conversation we have around it, the prospect or the partner or the vendor or whoever's like, oh my God, this is brilliant. And so that's our focus over the next 12 months.
I love that. And I've always said that, and the old adage, right? It's 7 times more costly to acquire a new customer than to sell to one that's sitting in your database. Yet
100%.
the most ignored asset in every company is their CRM data. It's
100%
crazy.
Agree. Yeah, I mean, it's some kind of behavior that I think we've been conditioned, or some people have been conditioned with, which is just go get new, go get new, go get new. Meanwhile, there's companies out there with millions of dollars of revenue, waiting,
sitting
to be just sitting there,
right.
and they're not doing anything with it.
Right.
And so, again, maybe the bigger shift for us is we don't want to work for the marketing leader. We want to work for the sales leader.
Right.
To kind of position it that way.
Yeah.
Because the sales leader, in an enterprise organization, they got to get sales, right?
Yeah.
They have to do things.
Yeah.
So, P.S. You marketing leaders out there, you can hire us too. But
yeah.
We really think that we work for the sales portion of the company.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And Dave, I love it. And honestly, we do a bunch on the front end and with our system. I think we should talk about some stuff we could do together, because I love what you do on the back end. And to me, I preach this to every sales call I'm ever on, is exactly what you just talked about.
Yeah, and we have multiple. So, and again, our model going back to the beginning was a subscription model, completely transparent. Like when we first started out, it was all very much blog, social, email.
Right.
And it was small, medium, large, maybe not even good, better, best.
Right.
It was small, medium, large. And so now we still have that stuff available. But in the CRM space, we have numerous subscriptions. Some are one time, some are ongoing, and they're very specific to the needs of the organization. So,
yeah,
it's really exciting stuff. I mean, we're helping companies leverage what they've already kind of cultivated.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Yeah. There's an old story, and my partner tells it all the time about, and I think it was Rockefeller, right? Don't quote me on that, but it was when all the lakes in the Midwest were, catching on fire, right? And it's when they were doing kerosene, and what they were throwing into the lake was gasoline. So what they were throwing away was way more valuable, right, than what was lighting the lakes on fire, right, that they were all focused on, right? And I feel like people's CRMs is exactly that, right?
Yeah.
They're tripping over dimes or dollars to get to dimes.
Pick up dimes. Absolutely. Perfect metaphor. The kind of the language we use is like, we'll help you mine the gold that's in your database.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's there. It's absolutely there.
I love what you're doing. And like I said, there's definitely some synergies we could do with Deploy. So I think you've already answered the question I was say. If you had to start it over again, right, Content Bacon, would you do anything different?
Great question. Maybe if, again, the question suggests we can look forwards and backwards at the same time.
I know, which is, it's a little loaded. I totally get it.
Yeah, it's okay. But assuming that's the context of the question.
Yeah.
Maybe moving to this CRM focused offering sooner, perhaps. That's certainly one thing. I mean, and maybe I'm saying that, recency bias, because it's like right now. Yeah, not much else. I mean, maybe creating more social media stuff. We do it. We've always done it. But, there's a lot of companies over the years where they're like, I don't want the blog content. Can you just do social for me? And, it doesn't really work that way. But
one leads to the other. Yeah.
Correct.
Totally get it. Yeah, to me, cracking the offer is always an ongoing thing. I love that you guys pivoted that way. I think it's really smart, and that the natural upsell is okay. Well, now help me with my current leads, right? It's just, I think what you have to do is get in the mind of your prospect, and I think you guys are really good at that. Nobody's better than content people at understanding that, and this is why if you're a sales leader, you definitely need to talk to Dave and his team. Dave, my always last question is, And it's one we don't prep, right? Because it's a little out there, but everybody wants to grow and scale, right? And that's why we talked about the next 12 to 18 months for you guys. I were to give you a magic wand, right? And you could solve one thing to help you get there, right? And maybe it's with your CRM offer going, through the roof, right? Or one obstacle. What would you use AI to do, or not AI, or just something, right, to be able to do that?
Well, in the context of AI, and you said it up front about growth, growth tools. I would love to know more about that. I'm actively curious about that.
Yeah.
How is
Happy
it?
to
How
talk
is
about
AI?
that.
Yeah, would love to. How is AI helping companies? Maybe do, I don't know. I'm making up the percentages here, but the first 65% of the funnel, let's say, or of the prospecting journey.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I'm very curious about that. I think a human being is going to always have to, sort of pitch and close.
100%.
Moreover,
you hit the nail on the head. When we talk about the 4 pillars of growth, the 4th pillar is closing sales, right? And sales nurture, which you guys are obviously phenomenal at, right?
Correct.
And helping these sales leaders do that. That to me is the one. It's the 3 pillars leading up to it, right? That you want to tee that sales team up for a better conversation. And that's the part we focus on, is those first 3. And then it's really helping that sales team with what you guys do, which is, how do we help them? People don't know this, right? Just moving the needle by 5 to 10% on your closing rate can double a company's revenue. And most sales leaders don't get that. When we tell them that, we're like, and we walk them through the numbers, they go, is that true? Yeah, but the problem is you got to fix the first 3 to get them the more qualified conversations. And that's what I love about what you do at Content Bacon, because that's the most dropped ball that they have. The follow-ups, the nurture, right? And now that you're doing it with past leads is phenomenal.
Yeah, and if you could AI that, if that's a way to say it, AI that, automate it, whatever, systematize that. I mean, that's a strain on a lot of organizations, the prospecting, the follow-up, et cetera. And a CRM can do a lot of it, of course, but can't do all of it. And it certainly can't develop a prospect.
Right.
So I'm curious about all that through the lens of AI.
Yeah. Absolutely. Love it. So Dave, we're going to put all the links in the show notes when this goes live, but tell everybody how to get in touch with you guys, and they need to engage with you, especially at Content Bacon.
Yeah. So I can be found on LinkedIn. The handle is Dave Kustin. That's the best place to reach me for certainly a professional conversation. Yeah. ContentBacon.com and element-m.com. Those are my 2 companies. And Dave at element-m if someone wants to drop me an email.
Yeah. And like I said, we'll have all those links below the show notes. But guys, please, everybody listening, please take note and take to heart what Dave said about what's sitting in your CRM. And I know we have hundreds and upon hundreds of founders that are going to go back to their sales leaders and go, hey, how many leads do we have sitting there? What are we doing with them? And you should be asking that question, right? And that's when you need to have a conversation with Dave, because I think that you'll be shocked at how easy it is to get your sales team more qualified appointments by just mining the gold that's sitting there. So Dave, thank you for spending time with us today. I'm really excited. I definitely want to, talk to you about some other stuff going forward. But guys, that wraps up this episode of Future Proof. This is what we do. We bring great experts and to plug holes into your systems, your growth, and your operations. So Dave, thank you for spending this time with us.
Thank you, Brent. It's great. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys, and we'll see you on the next episode. There we go.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.